From the various political parties about what they heard this evening. And we'll start with the governing party, the African National Congress, and their national spokesperson is Pule Mabe. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Mr. Mabe. Your thoughts about what the president has just said?
Thanks.
Hello, Mr. Mabe?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Mabe, we're live on air now.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, we're live on air now. I'm just asking your thoughts about what the president has just told the nation.
Yes, I was saying it live on air that we do welcome the position taken by government that those wrong elements that seek to undermine efforts to recover our economy out of COVID-19 must be exposed. All citizens must support efforts by our government to make sure that there is stability, a sense of peace in all of our communities. We do know, as the president has said, that there are criminal elements wanting to undermine efforts by our government to retain stability. We need this stability so that we could be able to achieve much-needed township economies. We need them to thrive, to create jobs for our people, stability in those townships, informal settlements, and everywhere else. So we must appreciate that government has come out to give us this kind of update, including on the work that they are doing to quell tensions where it arises. We must also commend the different communities, those that have gone out to clean in the malls, to make sure that there is a sense of stability where they live. Because we believe, as the African National Congress, that our struggle is only complete when it is joined by the people. And the people as a whole, they've shown their resilience over the past few weeks. I must say this to you, Peter, that I was out in Fosloras. I found in Katlehong, I found members of the community, members of the ANC assisting to rebuild their own communities. To all of us, I was with the national chairperson, Comrade Gwede Mantashe. It said to us that it is this spirit of patriotism that has made South Africa the kind of a country that it is today. The ANC-led government can never do it alone without the people as a whole.
Mr. Mabe, what do you say to a public that say that we're in this mess because of infighting within the party, the ANC, and that we are all having to pay the price of an internal squabble within a party?
Well, Peter, I can tell you now that all officials of the African National Congress were out today. The Treasurer General of the ANC was out in Alexander, working with the community to make sure that they could pick up the pieces and rebuild their own community. The National Chairperson of the ANC, earlier in the week, was out in Fosloras doing exactly the same work. The President of the ANC today was in KwaZulu-Natal in his capacity as the President of the Republic of South Africa, doing exactly that. The Deputy Secretary General the DSG of the ANC couldn't join because she had lost her nephew. But she had sent the same message to all of us. Actually, the DSG, even when she had a funeral at home, has been encouraging all of us to make sure that we mobilize, we organize, we are part of communities. We do all of these cleanups. So the ANC, as a responsible organization, understand very well that the rebuilding of South Africa rests on our shoulders. As the leader of society, no other political party can do what the ANC is doing today, together with its many volunteers throughout the country in all the 9 provinces who are hard at work. All the ministers deployed in the ANC-led government are on the ground, ensuring that we could provide for communities, we could send a message of stability, we could reassure our people that we are not running out of food supplies, that we are not running out of fuel, that we must expose those that participated in these activities must be in incarceration because they are giving our country a wrong name. I mean, we cannot allow a few individuals out of criminal activities to undermine investor confidence. Peter, we must do everything else we can to reassure our people that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. Those that are seeking to use instances like this to propel forward racial divisions must be exposed because they do not belong to the South Africa of Nelson Mandela.
Mr. Mabe, we'll leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us this evening.
No, thank you very much.
That's the national spokesperson of the African National Congress, the ANC, speaking to us in reaction to the president's speech. So let's go now to the Freedom Front Plus and their leader, Dr. Peter Groenewald. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program. Your thoughts about what the president shared with the nation this evening?
Good evening, Peter. Well, firstly, I want to say this is a retake on Monday's speech from the president. This is what the president should have said on Monday. And much of what the president said is in line with what I have raised in our meeting as political party leaders with the president, specifically the fact that there is more deployment and assistance from the SANDF, and also that we are actually dealing with sabotaging of the economy. I have used the words to say that it is nothing than economic terrorism. Now, the president said tonight that they are on the hunt for the instigators, and what I've heard, it's about an insurrection. So there is no doubt in my mind that these people and instigators must be charged with sedition and high treason, because this is an act against the state. We cannot allow that these people get away when they are threatening the democracy of South Africa. Therefore, we further expect from the president and the security forces to do their job well and to ensure that those instigators is really followed up and they must be brought to book to pay for what they did to South Africa.
Are you encouraged by the admission that the president made in terms of perhaps not being as prepared as they should have been, and that lessons have been learned going forward?
Yes, the president at least is honest when he says that. The fact of the matter is that if we look on the long term, there must be looked in detail to these lessons learned. We had a portfolio committee on police this morning, and I have raised the matter there. What is, for instance, also of importance, the focus is now on Gauteng and KZN, as well as the metros and all the structures there. They must not neglect the rural area. It can easily spread to the rural areas, and that must be prevented. So, you're correct. The question is, why did this happen? And I said it to the president in the meeting as well. The intelligence structures in South Africa has let down the president as well as South Africa. If they did their work properly, they would have identified these problems long before it happened. And that is also a deed that must look into as far as these intelligence structures are concerned. They have failed us, and that is totally unacceptable.
Dr. Peter Groenewald, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us this evening. All right, that's Peter Groenewald from the Freedom Front Plus. We go now to the economic freedom fighters. Sinao Tambo is on the line. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Peter, and good evening to your viewers.
All right, your thoughts on what the president spoke about tonight?
Look, I think, Peter, that the president has an obsession with appearing on TV. because there's never anything substantive that he's addressing with us. He's not giving us any progress on intelligence operations in terms of calling the protest. He never gives us any progress in terms of vaccination programs that are outside of the J&J program that he seems to be a proxy of. And that is why this is a specific fact and reason why the economic freedom fighters has been reluctant going into engagement with him, because he wants us to rubber stamp his PR exercises that he presents as interventions or solutions to economic, social, or medical crises that confront the country. So what he said today did not alleviate any anxiety. He did not tell us how businesses are going to be rebuilt. He did not tell us which economic interventions are going to be made in terms of the looting that has happened in the country, the banning of all of the malls that have been listed in their numbers. And also he did not tell us what progress has been made by the intelligence agency in terms of who has been arrested and on what grounds have those people been arrested. He's further not made any progress in terms of telling us at what level has the ANC made an intervention on the factional warfare that has led to the spilling of general anarchy in the country today. And we are unhappy with that with the speech that is made, and we are under the impression that he just seems to like to address the country because he thinks his voice is of some significance beyond solutions that are supposed to be presented by his regime. And we have not found anything useful from the addresses made today. But I think the most important thing we must be able to note, Peter, before we have some form of engagement, is that he keeps on encouraging vigilantism in the form of community justice. So community justice is hiding under the guise of vigilantism, where people are being killed by individuals. I mean, the last I remember, 70 people were killed in the protest that have happened thus far, and no one is giving us the causes of death. But we are aware that there's been racial tensions in Phoenix. There's been vigilantism in Soweto and Fort Loro's by people. There's been vigilantism in Port Elizabeth. There's been vigilantism in KZN general. And that vigilantism has let people die. So is the state outsourcing its law enforcement responsibilities to individuals? And how do you outsource the responsibility of enforcing the law in a country that is racially divided, where you know that a criminal is bound to be black, where you know that a roadblock is bound to stop black people from entering into particular suburbs, where you know that a shopping mall is bound to stop black people from entering them, and where you know who is bound to be the victim of being racially discriminated and being subjected to racial profiling. So to encourage community justice in a country that is so racially divided is irresponsible. It's extremely dangerous, and it's going to cause getting tensions in South Africa.
Right,
and I think that the president continues to encourage vigilantism.
But he did say though that the police and the security forces will work with the public. I don't think he was suggesting that they do it on their own. He also spoke about National Treasury working hard to put together a support package, a comprehensive support package. Is that not taking action?
Look, I think let me start on the first point. It's extremely dangerous to say that working with communities is not the police standing by and watching taxi drivers shooting at our people and hunting them as phosphorus. Working with communities is not allowing barricades to be set up by people who do not have a mandate to enforce the law in KwaZulu-Natal, in Phoenix, in KwaMashu, and all sorts of communities where there are white people who are setting up barricades and asking people to provide proof of residence. That is not working with the police. Secondly, the economic package that he seems to say that he's going to present, we want to see its fruits, because the president has a tendency of promising numbers that never deliver. If you follow the president's addresses since the beginning of the pandemic in South Africa, he'll tell you that there are 400,000 vaccines coming from this direction, there are 500,000 vaccines coming from this other direction, and all sorts of numbers. But these things never materialize into reality. So we have lost complete confidence on the basis of his own word not fulfilling itself.
All right.
And so that's the basis of our interaction. So we are saying, I think one thing we must emphasize the economic freedom fighters is that we are not going to go to the ground to engage our people while they have the barrel of the gun pointed to their head. Number one. Second, we are against vigilantism. No one must take the law into their own hands. We have seen people being made to swim in water in the mall. We have seeing people being made to crawl naked on videographs by taxi drivers. We have seen people being shot by Indians in Phoenix. We have seen people being barricaded to enter communities in KwaZulu-Natal because they are identified as criminals because of the color of their skin. And we are against that. And we are saying that people must
Mr. Tambo, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We're going to have to move on. But thank you so much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us this evening.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the Democratic Alliance, and the party's leader is John Steenhuisen. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Your reaction to the address that the President made to the nation this evening?
Thank you very much, Peter, and thanks for the opportunity to be with you. I must say, I did find it quite odd to hear the EFF telling people not to take the law into their own hands. After what they did at Vodacom, at H&M and Clicks, I think it is rather ironic. I think that what we welcome this evening is the President's frank admission that there were failures in preparedness, particularly on the intelligence and on the police front. And I think that I'm glad that the President has admitted there was a failure, but that failure's got to come with some action. And while we're going to clean up the streets as South Africans, I think it's time that the President cleaned up his cabinet. And in any other government in the world, those two ministers would have tendered their resignations by now on the back of the scale of the devastation that has happened as a result of failures of both their departments to be prepared for the situation. So I think that the President should have probably said this evening that he would be replacing those two ministers, because I think there needs to be a very clear message sent out that this cannot happen again, and that the failures that we've seen over the course of the last week and a half would not be repeated going forward, and that there have to be consequences, obviously, for those failures. I think it's also welcome to the recovery packages and the funding. They're going to need it. KZN has been devastated. Parts of Gauteng have been devastated, and it's going to take a lot to get many of those factories and investments back up and running again, because we need the jobs that go with them.
All right. What help can you give government? Did you find the conversation that he had with political parties this week useful, and did he listen?
Yes, I think he did listen. I'm very critical of the President, but in this instance, I would say that he listened. I put on the table a 9-point plan, and I'm very pleased that nearly every single one of those points has been actioned this week, which is why I think we're starting to see the stability settle in, why we're starting to see the transport routes open again, and why we're starting to see that goods and services are getting back into KwaZulu-Natal particularly. So I was very pleased with the outcome. I'm sorry that some political parties chose to boycott the meeting. I think there was a real opportunity to put the country first there, and that's certainly what we did. And I think we're starting to see the results of that.
John Steenhuisen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. That's the leader of the Democratic Alliance joining us. Let's go now to the president and founder of the UDM, Major General Bantu Holomisa. Thank you for joining us. Your thoughts on what President Ramaphosa told the nation this evening?
President Ramaphosa's statement, he was sort of reporting back on what are the intentions of his executive or the government. And as you know, we've listened to these good messages and speeches in the past, but he's always disappointed by his executive. One hopes that they will implement what he was outlining this evening. So we can just view his statement, therefore, as nothing else but a statement of intent. But in the meantime, people must seriously put pressure on Parliament to be convened as soon as possible, so that we should possibly or seriously consider, among others, establishing a multi-party committee to investigate this mess. I'm not satisfied that we are going to listen or accept the version of the executive only. A lot of work needs to be investigated, especially where you will find that this this mess is part of an infighting. We must find a way of saying, if it continues after a year or so, 6 months or whatever, how should we deal with such a thing? I'm not satisfied. We need to, Parliament must get involved now. People, we come from different constituencies. So far, it's only one constituency which has been briefing us on TV. So we need to hear more voices, but they must be formalized.
Do you feel confident that the plan to at least deal with the immediate problem, which is the continued violence and looting, the deployment of soldiers, more soldiers onto the streets, is going to quell the current wave?
So far, the soldiers have done a sterling job. But what we may not know is, in a situation like this, is that the initiative is not with the soldiers on the ground. The initiative is with some of the members of the ruling party. Let us not avoid that the reasons of this conflict emanate from within the ANC. So we don't know what's next.
All right. We're going to leave it there. Major General Bantu Holomisa, thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us. That's the leader of the UDM. All right, let's go to the ATM party, and we're now joined by Sibusiso Mncwabe, who's going to share his thoughts with us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to you.
Yes, thank you, my brother. Thank you. And,
all right. Are you happy with what the president told the nation tonight?
Well, we are not, because the president should have said this last time when he was addressing the nation. There is nothing, according to us, there is nothing here except that the president tells us that he has been in KwaZulu-Natal. Even that is disappointing, because according to us, he should have visited the hotspots. The president was there, but he never went to Phoenix, where there are serious tensions between the Indian community and the black community. We're of the view that now the president, that is KwaZulu-Natal, he'll be able to go to the hotspot, speak to the people and calm the situations, which he has failed to do. After that, he went to Meerbeek, and it was clear that he was addressing the members of the ANC. You could have hear him saying, Viva ANC, Amanda. He was not talking to the nation, to the province of KwaZulu-Natal, to the people of KwaZulu-Natal, which was very much disappointing. So as far as we are concerned, we think that the president really has missed the opportunity to address the citizens of KwaZulu-Natal, ordinary people of KwaZulu-Natal, address their concerns, listen to their questions. That is what we think the president should have done. Now that is addressing the nation now, I mean, to be honest to us, there's nothing inspiring at all.
You're not inspired at all by the idea that they're trying to find ways to support businesses, support households with some kind of packages?
Yes, my brother. Look, man, what the president is saying, number one, to say that he knows or they know that who is behind this and they are after them. To us, it says he must fire his security cluster. They have let down him. And also, even himself, he must consider resigning. If those who are giving threat to the security of the state are ahead of you, are ahead of the intelligence agencies, why are they leading the country? Now that is coming to say we'll do this and do this is after the fact. The disaster has happened. We have lost so much billions, yet we have the state security, we have the commander-in-chief. This is the entire event that has happened to KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng is an embarrassment to the Ramaphosa administration. We don't have intelligence services in this country. It's either he has been ill-advised or even himself is unable to give leadership. You cannot come after everything and give promises. You must tell us first, when you were briefed by your intelligence agencies. What did you do to hinder or to stop the disaster? That is what I'm saying. To us as an ATM, we've got more questions to the Ramaphosa administration than one can expect as answers. You must just fire his security cluster and resign.
All right, Mr. Mncwabe, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed. And that's the second party saying that the security cluster ministers ought to be fired or resign for the failures that they perceive that they have made. All right, let's move on to the next party, Al Jamar, and we speak to leader Hanif Hendricks. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. What are your thoughts about what President Cyril Ramaphosa told the nation this evening?
I'm very impressed that the president did not lick his wounds. In fact, he showed great leadership by listening to the responses of the different political party leaders. We heard the official opposition party saying that the president has implemented all the 9 points. We also heard that the Freedom Front said that the president also listened to them. Al Jamar was very hard-hitting. We told the president that he must change his stance and that he must change his stance from showing restraint to displaying that he is going to have not going to be tolerant and display a show of force. He has done that now. Al Jamar is very confident that the president will bring peace and stability to the country. We have already seen progress in that regard, and the president has gone further in these difficult times to provide relief for those communities affected. The president also referred to the issue of vigilantism. He referred to the issue of cooperation between police forums and forums. In fact, Al Jamar's position is that the president must go one step further and that there must be compulsory conscription of people into the police force so that we can bring peace and stability to the country. We cannot leave it to the army and the police alone to deal with what I call the next waves that are going to come in the weeks to follow. But we are very confident that the president is on top of it. He has displayed courage and the president has listened to Al Jamar's request that all the NEC members of the ANC be redeployed to flashpoints, and we've already heard from him that they are doing that, and that is very encouraging that the NEC members of the ANC is now taking the lead. They can't expect religious leaders, political party leaders, and other leaders to go to the streets. They need to go to the streets, and we have seen that. And Al Jamar is very impressed with the bold steps that the president has taken, and we're very confident that very soon there will be stability. But now the challenges are that we need to rebuild relationships, and the NGOs and the faith communities are taking the lead in that regard, and South Africa must be very proud of them.
Some would say we're in the middle of a crisis, and do you think that the president this evening said enough, gave enough leadership for people to feel as if he is in charge and that we probably are going to be safer in the days to come?
Yes, we are very confident that the decision to increase the Defence Force capability tenfold was a very bold step in spite of the financial crisis that we have. And we've already heard that the Defence Force is not showing restraint. They are taking no nonsense, and they will very soon bring stability, and that's what people want. We met with Muslim religious leaders from the Zulu Nation, from religious leaders outside the Zulu Nation in KZN, and we communicated to the president their solutions, and I think I've already received, after the president's speech, responses from them that they are very happy that the president has taken firm action, he's firmly in control of the country, and that this is a big blow to the insurrection and those trying to destabilize the country, harm our democracy. They must now stop their nonsense.
Mr. Hendricks, thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us. That's the Al-Jamaat leader, Hanif Hendricks, speaking to us, saying that the president said the right things and struck the right note this evening. All right, let's speak to the South African Communist Party now. Alex Mashilo is on the line. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Mr. Mashilo. Your thoughts on what the president said this evening? Do you think he said enough?
The president has said enough this evening. He has assured the country that between our democracy and the counter-revolutionary offensive, our democracy must prevail, our democracy must win, and the counter-revolutionary offensive must fail, and those who were behind plotting it must be arrested, and he has assured the nation that steps are already being taken in that particular regard. Unfortunately, these counter-revolutionaries have caused massive damage. We have suffered loss of life. We have suffered more other losses. You will note that the warehouses and the malls and other shops that have been destroyed affected our communities in many ways. Supplies to medicine was interrupted, and the lives of our people are endangered. So it is important that we come together as a nation behind what the president has said, and we return to one of the most important issues that the president raised. We should come back to evaluate the slow response of our security cluster to the crisis as it emerged.
All right. What do you think needs to happen in the coming days? Soldiers have been deployed. He's talking about people working together. Is there anything else you think that he could have suggested to deal with the immediate problems that the country is facing?
Basically, he has covered the ground. He spoke about social relief in the context of this disaster. He spoke about measures to resume with production and trade. He spoke about measures to ensure security and that the South African National Defence Force supports the police in carrying out their functions. He took the nation into his confidence about the instructions he has given to the South African police services to hold to account those behind these counter-revolutionary offensives.
All right, Mr. Mashilo, that's where we'll leave it there for the time being. Thanks very much indeed for the reaction from the South African Communist Party. So we continue to get reaction from the various political parties, and we've been talking to and getting some reactions, some happy, some obviously not. But we now have got Victor Blum from Cope Party. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Peter, and it's Dennis Bloom.
Yes, Dennis Bloom. You're so
Dennis
right.
Bloom. Yes,
Thank you.
Peter.
Your thoughts on this evening's address by the president?
Peter, let me start by saying, you see, in 2007, our president, Terra Lekota, warned the ANC in Polokwane that they must not elect Jacob Zuma as the president of the ANC and therefore of the country. They did not want to listen. Look what is happening now. Sectional fight is rampant. This whole thing, it started as a sectional fight. You see, Peter, the second point is that we don't understand. We have said many times, before Zuma was arrested, we said that the instigators must be arrested. There was press conferences. all over and instigating people to fight, to violence. The speeches that they have made was purely to instigate people to fight if Zuma is being arrested. They have said that if Zuma is arrested, there will be unrest. They can't guarantee stability. Now, look what is happening now. We are asking, Peter, the president just said now, they know these people, these instigators. Why are they not being arrested? We are demanding that they must be arrested immediately because, you see, 212 people have died because of them. These instigators who have instigated people, who is using poor people to fight their thing. Now, we are saying, Peter, if the president and the security forces know these people, let them not sleep until Sunday at home. President spoke about Sunday is Nelson Mandela a day. Let them be arrested tomorrow and Sunday. That will be a very good thing to celebrate the Nelson Mandela Day, because we cannot have, Peter, if we are leaving these people still, you see today there was a press conference demanding that Zuma must be released. Why are we allowing this type of thing? Why are we not clamping down? Peter, I can't understand, honestly, why the security police, the intelligence, was not aware what is going to happen. Let me tell you, Peter, during the apartheid, when we were in the struggle, the security police, when there's a stay away the following day, the security police will be all over. A rent boycott or a consumer boycott, the police will be all over in the morning already, 2 o'clock in the morning. They will search each and every car. They will stop our marches. But why this thing? Why, if the president is saying they know these people, why are they not being arrested? We demand that they be arrested. 212 people have lost their lives. Billions of rand damages. They must be arrested. We support the president when he's saying nobody will take the law into its own hands in this country. The country is being governed by laws. The Constitution, defend the Constitution, defend our democracy. We will die for this Constitution. We will die for this democracy. We fought very hard to have this democracy, Peter. We are not going to allow it. Now, the last point, Peter, is that the solution to this whole problem is that the president has said it for himself now, that they were not aware of this thing. Now, the Minister of Intelligence, of State Security, and the Minister of Police must resign, or the president must fire them, because if they were fit for their jobs, this thing could never have happened. What we see happening now, the chaos, the destruction in this country. The president must fire Ayanda Dlodlo and Beki Cele. They have let him down. We are looking at him as the president. They have let the president down. They have let the country down. They must go. Let people who is fit and proper for that position be placed into those positions.
Great, and that's where we'll leave it. Thank you very, very much indeed, Mr. Dennis Blum. Thanks so much indeed.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening. All right, that's the spokesperson of the COPE party saying that the security cluster ministers need to be fired if they do not resign. We'll have more for you after this. Stay with us. You're watching The Globe on the SABC News Channel.